Hey, Zach again. I know this is a bit of a departure from my other two videos, which thank you so much for the support on those, but I don't really want to be put into a box, and I want to make what interests me. So that means horror games, colony builders, FPSs, sometimes basically only Ultra Kill though, adventure games, Monster Hunter stuff, analog horror, anime, movies, TV, anything really. If it interests me, I want to make videos about it, and that's just how it's gonna go. I just figured RimWorld was a good place to start, and I don't plan to stop doing RimWorld. I plan to finish that series and probably do a few more too, just whenever the feeling strikes me. But I also want to do stuff like this. Also, on that topic, I will be doing a stream on Saturday at 8 p.m. CST playing Indigo Park because I've been looking forward to that game, and yeah, scheduling streams a little bit ahead of time has been very helpful in keeping track of time. Also, make sure you subscribe if you like this video, because, yeah, it means a lot to me and it'll help me grow. Eventually, I plan to buy a face cam to make these videos a bit more interesting to look at, but I'm kind of broke at the moment, so not really something I can do right now. Anyways, enjoy the video. See ya. Now, I've never played any of the original FNAF games. At most, I've played the first night of 4, I know Salvage Run a Pizza Sim, I know Animatronics Round of UCN, and I've also not really played any of the FNAF fan games, or well, horror games in general. So I'm not exactly an expert on this stuff, and no shade at the dev, but the game is far too easy. The 720 mode is far too hard, and there isn't really much that's scary about it in my opinion. But we can save that all for later after we cover the game itself. So when you launch the game, you're greeted by a Fredbear who may have done a little bit of trolling involving the forehead of a small child. You are instructed to dismantle him piece by piece before rebuilding him as our favorite brown Freddy, and you also have to do the same with Spring Bonnie, making him a not so Spring Bonnie. You also throw Chica up there for some representation and you're good to go. Then you get booted to the title screen. There's not much here, so let's just start the game. You are put into a car with a sheet of paper that has the rough layout of the building you're being brought to as the man driving you explains the rough mechanics of the first room. In this game, instead of nights, everything is separated into rooms. The first room consists of you shutting off cameras and audio before moving on. There are two obstacles in the way of doing that, Freddy and Endo. Freddy likes to wander around and show up at your desk, which you need to hide under to make him go away, and Endo will show up on cam 3, where you must flash him to make him leave as well. It's pretty simple and I managed to do it deathless. When you leave, you are given a cutscene with Freddy telling you how to control him on stage. Besides some jitters, nothing much happens. Then you end up in a hallway as your driver tells you to grab some things in a storage room and leave through the door in there. You go in, grab said things, and then are confronted with a curtain and a door. To progress through this section, you need to charge up the door while making sure the curtain stays closed. When it starts to open, you will hear a whoosh and need to click the button on a remote that you have to close it. The catch is when you stop charging the door, the accumulated charge will start to fall, so you need to be quick about the button. It's also really simple, and I managed to clear it deathless, but it takes ages. After getting through the room, you are given 2 arcade games instead of a cutscene. The first game is called Golden Comet, where you play Spring Bonnie shooting blue bunnies at pizzas to defend your space station. The gameplay loop is okay, and the music is a bit ear-grating, but thankfully it doesn't last very long. The second one is called Sneaky Guy. It's basically if the FNAF 3 minigames were all gray and the rooms were empty. It only lasts about 20 seconds before glitching out at the end, and if you're fast, you can make it to the top leftmost room where you can find a crumpled figure. My guess is that it's Springtrap, but it could also be Golden Freddy. After you finish those arcade games, you are thrown into a room reminiscent of Candy's 3, which was released like a year earlier. There's a wind-up rat in the front of the room, and a door in front and to the right of you, as well as a vent in the back. The goal of this room is to get the vent open enough to leave through it. You are stopped by a rat animatronic modeled after the FNAF 4 nightmares, and a wind-up mouse toy. For the rat, you need to check the 2 doors he appears in, and hyper flash him if he shows up. And for the mouse, you just need to keep the toy wound up, or else you will, well, die. Thankfully, the vent doesn't close when you're looking away from it, so thankfully you can take your time. I died almost immediately upon entering this room since I didn't know what I was doing, but I quickly completed it afterwards. The next cutscene is of you listening to some FNAF 3 tapes while putting on the Springlock Freddy outfit before the world starts to melt. The fourth room is basically based around the toxicity meter from the Return to Freddy's, but in reverse. You are equipped with a gas mask to lower your toxicity and have a ventilation system on your cameras to prevent you from gaining toxicity super quickly. There's also a big jump in numbers for this room, having a whopping 4 animatronics to deal with. You know, originally this was just a boring play-by-play, but it's almost 4 a.m. when I'm getting to this point in editing, and I've been at this for about 12 hours, including when I started the script, so I just don't really care anymore, and I want to do something more fun. So I've busted out this funny little drawing, that's me, and we're going to show you on the map where the bad man touched you. I mean, where the monsters go. I mean, the animatronics go. It's 4 a.m. I'm sorry. Anyways, Freddy, he shows up in the hallway. He stands there for a bit, and then he jumps into the vent. He's easy to take out. You just gotta shut down the ventilation. Next we have Chica. She just teleports into the vent. Same as Freddy, you just shut down the ventilation. Foxy shows up in the hallway like Freddy does, but you have a little button in your office that you have to press. And pressing that makes the power go out and Foxy leaves because there's no light or anything. And then Bonnie, he shows up in the hall behind you, and if he leans through the window, you can run the fan to make him leave. And that's the way that all the animatronics work. You are tasked with surviving this for 6 minutes, and despite the amount of time, it's fairly easy, and I also do this one deathless. The next cutscene consists of you being instructed to clean a filthy Fredbear costume with the newly manufactured Faz spray. Then you move on to the 5th night, where it's basically a classic FNAF night, except you only focus on one animatronic and deal with the others as they pop up. The main animatronic you're going to need to worry about is the suit. They will move towards you, and your goal is to send them to the far back office. To do this, you need to locate them with the, locate button, and you have to send them back using the return button. However, you must wait for his eyes to be off before pressing the return button, as pressing it will disable it for a while. He only turns his eyes off once or twice a room. Now, the nuisances which will prevent you from idling on the suit are the security animatronics. The first and least obtrusive one is Freddy. He will appear in the window in front of you. You need to cover his eyes once he stops moving with a sheet of paper on the window. Next is Bonnie, who leans in through your right door. If you press Control, you will notice you have some jump start cables. So if you shock him with those, he will run away like he isn't a masochist. The final security animatronic is Fredbear. He will occasionally appear on the camera you are looking at. You will need to press the reset camera button to make him go away, or else he disables your cameras for a decent chunk of time and probably make you miss one of the suit's eyes off moments. This room is fairly busy and a slight increase in difficulty, but it's mostly just tedious, and it ended up taking me about half an hour and I died 3 times. After you complete the room, you're put face to face with the suit with a remote in hand. Despite the FNAF 2 style flashing warning, pressing the button does nothing and you will end up dying. Afterwards, you are greeted with a series of security cam footage of Fredbear messing around in the hallway before being given a tragic end screen. I would like to tell you what the other endings are, but I've got no clue. I replayed the last night and nothing changed, and I've got a pretty big distaste for searching stuff up for games I go in blind for. TLDR, grew up playing Terraria. Being a wiki game, I never got to experience things for myself, so now I cherish that. But anyways, let's move on. After beating the game, like most FNAF fan games, you gain access to the extras menu in the custom night. The extra menu holds some dev notes, renders of the characters, the 2 mini-games after Room 2, and the Insane mode. Now, the Insane mode is just a harder version of Room 4, where you need to survive for 6 minutes with the rotten animatronics. Well, I say harder, but it's not that much different. It just feels like they're slightly more active, but not by that much. Now, the custom night is a bit more complicated. It has 7 characters and 4 challenges, those challenges being a mix of the characters. Those characters being Timothy, the Nightmare Rat from Room 3, Prototype from Room 1, Roger, the wind-up toy from Room 3, Suit from Room 5, Jeffrey, who is Freddy from Room 5, Barry, who is Bonnie from Room 5, and Lewis, who is Golden Freddy from Room 5. Your office has 4 monitors and 2 halls, making it more akin to a normal FNAF game than the main game was. The nights work like Pizza Sim, where they end based on how fast you complete the tasks rather than waiting for the 8 minutes. So here's the rundown on the animatronics. Timothy and Prototype will show up in your halls, Timothy needing to be hyper-flashed and Prototype needing the flashlight to be held on him. Neither of them has an audio cue. Suit will show up on the 3rd monitor, and when he does, you need to click the advance button to make him go away. Jeffrey will show up on one of the 4 cameras on your 1st monitor. You must click that one to make the static move to block his view. Barry will move up into the doorway in monitor 2, and you must shock him. And then Lewis will pop up on any of the 3 screens, where you must refresh that screen to get rid of him. Finally, Roger, the only animatronic with a sound cue, and thus the best animatronic, will show up in the same hall as Timothy, and you must wind up the toy on your desk to make him go away. Now let's talk lore before I get into my upsetty spaghetti mode. So, the way I believe the lore for this game goes is you are some kind of cleaner, like the black market kind, not a janitor, and you were hired by William Afton after the missing kids incident to go and erase evidence and clear the crime scene. I assume the 4th room to be a oxygen deprivation induced hallucination, as it revolves around not being able to breathe and having a mask on after passing out in the Golden Freddy suit. For 2 and 3 though, I've got no clue. 2, maybe gathering more evidence. 3, I I don't know. Also, the custom night, in my opinion, is William Afton trying to hide the evidence himself, since at the start of the custom night it mentions that investigators are on their way, but that also implies that you could be an investigator in the main game, although I'm not very convinced, because you're like actively deleting security footage in room 1. But that's enough for the fun part, let's talk criticism. So my biggest problem and first problem is that it is far too easy. If someone like me, who is completely and totally inexperienced in games like these, can brace through the main game in under an hour with less than 4 deaths, I think the skills floor is probably too low. Now, I will admit that it is an older game, about 6 years old I believe, and so it's got about that 6 years old level of difficulty and surrounding fan games. However, those surrounding fan games included stuff like Jollies 3, Joy of Creation Story Mode, Five Nights at Candy's 3, so I feel like the difficulty could 100% have been way higher than it was. And bringing up those games brings me to my second point of criticism. The game wasn't that scary. I am very easily scared. I have nightlights in my hallway so I don't gotta walk around in the dark. I keep my PC on in my room at night because I don't like the silence or the darkness. It makes me uncomfortable. For God's sake, last night I watched a video about FNAF ransomware, which I've watched videos about before and been just fine, but then taking out my dog and grabbing some water became a heart-pounding moment of tension. However, this game was less than impactful for me. The environments are cool. The models are well made, but come on. The security animatronics are downright funny with their toothless smiles and eyeless faces, and Nightmare Rat is just a less impressive version of the actual Nightmare Rat from Candy's 3. I was fairly tense for the first room, but the second room just took so damn long that I stopped being scared. There was no tension. I heard the curtain sounds just fine. I could easily click the button. There was no risk of death. There was only risk where if it took me too long to press the button, I would lose like 20% of the charge on the door, which ends up being more frustrating than tense. While I gave the rat some shit, room 3 was fairly tense, but after I got jump scared, I kind of figured out how things worked, and once I knew it, it was just not enough randomness to keep me struggling, and I wasn't scared anymore, and the vent doesn't fall, so I didn't have to worry about how long I took going door to door and winding up the toy. I found out while playing this that difficulty and scariness often go hand in hand with this game, namely, the complete lack of either. More times than not, it felt like playing an equation more than a FNAF game, since there was always a bulletproof strategy that worked near perfectly, and I would figure out that strategy almost instantly, leading me to feel rather empty after ending my first stream. Yeah, I beat the game, but there wasn't much game to beat. So I kept the same feeling through my second stream until around the 15-minute mark when I started trying the 720 mode. It was no longer boredom, it was just straight frustration, and it was a near perfect loop of failure too. So my typical 720 mode run would go like this. I would start by cutting the first transmission, then Bonnie would show up, so I would shock him. Then I check the left hall, then the right. Usually nothing's there yet. I check monitor 3 and advance the suit. I check Freddy. He hasn't moved yet. Golden Freddy will usually show up, so I reset the cam he's on, check the halls again. Both Rat and Endo have usually shown up by now, and Mouse is usually there too. So I flash Endo, wind up the toy, hyper flash Rat, and Freddy got me. Despite the fact he didn't move a single time, even after I was done winding up the toy. And that was my loop for 20 minutes, and I gave up, moved on to the insane mode. It was fairly easy. I died to Foxy once, and that was it. And then I threw more attempts at 720. and it was more of the same. So at that point, I just gave up and said my goodbyes and turned off the stream. Now, I can appreciate the love and passion that the dev put into this despite the frustration I feel, because the animatronics look great, the environments are eerie, sound design is wonderful, but good art and sound can only do so much when a game isn't fun and horror isn't scary. So, there may be a reason why you've only heard about Abide at Freddy's.
Whoa, whoa. Here I come. Oh, here I come. Oh.
Hey, welcome to the outro. Thank you for watching the video all the way through. I'm, very tired. I've been going at this start to finish, first word in the Google Doc to last clip of the whistle, oh, here I come, in about 14 hours. And I have a very linear process, so the last thing was the last thing I did. Technically, this is the last thing I'm doing. I'm not even gonna put like text over it, I don't think. Or maybe I'll put an Obama pyramid on it, I guess. Spinning Obama prism. Anyways, if you enjoyed my suffering of tonight, then go ahead and drop me a like and a subscription. That'd be greatly appreciated. I wasn't doing very, like, I got views and I was really proud of how much the algorithm recommended my RimWorld videos, but I didn't do any calls to action or anything like that, and apparently for the amount of views I was getting, I was not getting much engagement, and I know that's very YouTube brained of me when I have 80 subs, but I mean, I don't want 80 subs, I want like 500 so that I can get monetized. Like mask off. I really do want to grow and get big so that I can share my stuff and have people to talk to and make friends in the community and all that stuff. It's been a dream of mine since I was a kid. And I mean, the attention I'm getting is definitely reinforcing that. And so yeah, I think I'm gonna keep doing this. Other than that, I hope you have a nice day. I'm gonna go to sleep. Yeah. See you next time, I guess. I'll probably be streaming tonight. Probably like 8 or 9, if I had to guess. But yeah, I'm gonna go get some sleep. It is 7:30 in the morning. So, yeah. See ya.